welcome back to Speculative Dude Presents. I'm your host, Speculative Dude. Now, I wanted to go back a little ways in my own personal history with reviewing movies because, well, about 3.5 years ago, I started a series on racing movies that I never really got a chance to finish. So, I decided to start that back up again, partly because, well, I'm reviewing movies again, and also because I've seen a lot more bad car/racing movies. So hey, let's take a look and see what we've got today. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at Drift Beauty Battle, which is actually a racing movie focused mostly on young ladies racing. In fact, there's only one male character that has any focus in the entire movie at all, and it's the father of one of the three main characters. So, what's it about? Well, our main story opens with one of the three main characters, Chinatsu, who going up to the pass, dragging her friend, Reiko, along with her, to watch drifting. While she's up there, she decides, hey, I want to drive. I want to get my license and get a car. Okay, well, I can get behind that. I remember being enthusiastic about, getting a car and wanting to drive myself. So she goes over to what you find out is actually one of their classmates' father's shop, and takes a look at a car. It's an old AE86 Levin. Now, I was actually really glad that they used the Levin in this one because honestly the Trueno gets so much focus most of the time that, like I said, it's nice to see a little love for the Levin. And technically they're both basically the same car as far as, stats go, but with the pop-up headlights and obviously the main focus in Initial D, the Trueno, honestly, usually gets the props. Now, she decides she wants to get this Levin, but first she needs to go get her driver's license. And of course, Reiko, being the very nice friend, and I'll say this, she really does put up with a lot from Chinatsu, who drags her all over the place, goes along with her to get her license. Now, I actually talked to a friend who's actually one of the managers of Royal Trader Auto in Japan and asked for some information about driver's licenses in Japan. And I was actually told that, first of all, in Japan, you are required by law to be 18 to get your driver's license, and you have to go to driver's school. Unlike in somewhere like, say, I'm from the US, where it's an option, in Japan, it's a requirement. You have to go to driver's school before you can get your license. And also, many high schools apparently will not allow you to attend there if you already have your license. They don't want students who drive. Okay? I don't know why, but that's their business. That's their rules. So they're coming to the end of their high school life and decide, okay, once we graduate, we're getting our licenses. We get a little montage of them going through the process, specifically Chinatsu, who going through the process of practicing. You see one of the instructors tell her, okay, it's not quite right, do it again. Little bits like that. And then she triumphantly runs back into the auto shop and says, I got my license. With a big smile on her face, very proud of herself. And that's understandable. Anyone who's looked forward to something like that can relate, I think. And of course, Reiko kind of walks up behind her and wearily says, she made me get mine too. Again, so Reiko's probably the best character in here because she not only contrasts Chinatsu's enthusiasm, but also is kind of a mellowing out point for her, and as far as being the reasonable one between the two. Well, before they actually get the car, they're confronted by Kaede, their classmate whose father owns the shop, and where she says, I don't want them to have this car. Now, unfortunately, one of the small issues with this DVD is that the subtitling, it's subbed, not dubbed, was done by a Hong Kong company, so the Japanese to English is, it's not bad, but there are definitely some points where it's, questionable. I know my Japanese isn't great at all, but even every once in a while I'll pick up on something that's like, I don't think that's right. For example, this scene when Kaede is justifying why she doesn't want Chinatsu to have the car, and her dad's response in the subtitles is, well, why don't you both own the car? It's like, that's not quite what he says. He says, why don't you... He suggests that the reason she doesn't want to give up the car is because they worked on the car together. So what he really does is suggest that she work on the car with them while they own the car, so that way she can still feel a connection with it. And that's a little more accurate to what was being said rather than, again, the subtitles. So the three become good friends while bonding over this car. Kaede, being a mechanic, just like her father, helps Chinatsu to learn what the car is capable of. Now, being an AE86, as you might have guessed, it's pretty well suited for drifting. It's not the fastest car in the world, but it can get the job done, and is, again, good for mountain pass racing. So Chinatsu, being the driver of the group, starts driving more, and eventually starts to get pretty good. Unfortunately, just before the plot starts, we have, it's a little bit of a painful scene, I'll be perfectly honest, because it's completely pointless, but when you realize who the actors are, it makes sense when they did it. They decide, the girls are lounging around one day and it's very hot, and someone suggests, hey, let's go to the beach. Well, here's the thing. All three of these young ladies are what are referred to in Japan as grab your idols. If you're familiar with Japanese culture, you know what that is. I'll just put it lightly and we won't get too descriptive and just say basically it's cute girls, usually in their teens and early 20s, most often, who do very beautiful pin-up shots, nothing adult or usually no nudity, anything like that, but they're, basically there to look cute and look good. Get their pictures taken and be in videos. That's all they do. And it's very obvious that this whole scene at the beach, which isn't really the beach, it's filmed, interestingly enough, in a parking lot, while you can see the beach in the background. Basically, they get there, put on their swimsuits, and just throw a beach ball around. It's clear that the only reason for this scene existing is, we have three grab your idols, so we should show them in swimsuits. So it's completely pointless. However, as they're driving back, it starts to get dark, and all of a sudden the plot kicks in. They're suddenly passed on the mountain road by another female driver who's known simply as Speed Lady. Oh, I forgot to mention that they also decided to, Kaede decided to name the car and their team the 86 Angels. Just due to the fact that the 11 that they're driving is an AE86. So that's in here too. So they get passed by Speed Lady, and at one point, as they continue down the mountain, they come across her and some other racers standing around just talking, as people do when street racing. At which point, Chinatsu gets offended, and Speed Lady basically insults their car and says they have no business driving out here. At which point, again, as I said, Chinatsu gets offended and challenges her to a race. Well, Speed Lady says, I'm not going to race you unless you can beat my friend here. So, of course, they race. Before they race, however, Kaede and Reiko both tell her, don't do it, it's not worth, she insulted you, but it's not worth it. But Chinatsu's not one to stand for insults. So she races Speed Lady's, I guess, number 2, I suppose, and loses. They make it look as if she kind of crashed into the side of the road, though they never show it. And all it is they show the car kind of pushed up against the side of the road, and she gets out of the car and is kind of limping, as if she took a hit, when clearly it's very obvious she did not. But, okay, anyway. Then, at which point Kaede gets mad at her for, doing that and say, you hurt the car. She, in fact, even slaps her across the face. And Chinatsu's so embarrassed that she runs off. Kaede tells her, you don't care anything about the car, you don't care about us, you just wanted your own stupid pride. Reiko tries to go after her and ends up finding her, talks to her a little bit, and, she's sorry, remorseful, but is not really sure what to do. Until one day she actually comes across Kaede's dad, who gives her a little bit of advice on, basically like fatherly advice, even though he's not her dad, but, he gives some adult wisdom. about maturing, and asks her, why did you start driving? Did you do it because you wanted to race, because you wanted to be the fastest, or did you do it because you really loved it? And she realizes the reason she was racing that night wasn't because she wanted to have fun or to enjoy it, was because of her own pride. So, okay, she goes back, apologizes to both Kaede and Reiko, and they make up. Well, at which point Kaede apparently has been repairing the car. So they go back out and they decide to challenge Speed Lady's friend, this time unannounced. This is a rather impromptu battle, which of course we all know that happens. Most street races are actually rather impromptu. But they're going down the mountain and they come across her and race her down the mountain and pass her, and beat her down the mountain. At which point they, look at Speed Lady and say, well, you said we could race you after we beat your friend. Well, we did. So they have a race with Speed Lady. Now, it comes to find out during the race that they installed a supercharger in the 86 to give it a little bit of a boost. Now, there was actually a supercharger made for the AE86 engine. I believe it's called the 4AGE, I believe was the actual engine designation. And there was also the 4AGZE, if I'm saying this right, I could be doing it a little bit off, but was actually a supercharged version of this. I don't know how much more actual horsepower that gave it, but I know that it can give it a decent boost. I believe the stock engine is roughly 140 horsepower. I've heard you can do up to 200 with a good supercharger, which that's a decent, that's almost a 50% boosted power. So, okay. They managed to win the race against Speed Lady. And the movie ends with showing each one of them a few years later, though obviously it's still the same girls, they're still the same age, just dressed, slightly more, they're not dressed as kids anymore. Chinatsu's dressed as like a business lady, young business lady. Kaede now runs her own store, and Reiko runs her own store, and Kaede is helping her father as a mechanic now. And that's the end of the movie. It's basic, it's simple. I'm not gonna lie, I actually don't mind the movie, mostly because of Chinatsu's enthusiasm. I can understand it. I can see where she, her excitement is. Myself, I really liked it because of that. When I was getting my license, at first I wasn't really interested in, I liked cars, but I wasn't really interested in getting my license. Then when I did, I really felt excited about it. Driving around, even when I was driving my dad's, little Escort, I think it was like a 1990 Escort station wagon, I had fun, I'd turn the little stock stereo up and listen to, music in the late 90s, and drive around town. It was, like I said, it was enjoyable. I understand the enthusiasm, and I like that it's shown. Most of the time you get racers that are either very stoic or, something they don't show much emotion, She actually shows a wide range of emotion, which is to me, a sign of a good character. There are some problems, for sure. One is, again, when you hire 3 gravure idols for your movie, you're not hiring them for their acting ability. And this is especially true of Kaede. I'm sorry to say this, I know this sounds mean, but that young lady, granted, this was made back in 2007, I believe, and, maybe she became an actress after that, maybe her acting improved, but in this movie, the acting is terrible. She, of the 3, Kaede would probably be the cutest, but she's also has the least amount of acting ability. Reiko is probably the most mature character in the entire series. She tries to make peace with everyone, talks with everyone. She's a reasonable one. She doesn't get overly angry or that. She sees things for the way they are. And she probably turns in the best acting performance of the group. Chinatsu is somewhere in the middle. She's by far definitely the main character, but her acting is passable. It's not great, but it's okay. Again, as I said, you've got 3 gravure idols. Acting is not what they're there for. They're there to look cute on camera. Let's see. Next, we have the special effects. Now, for the most part, the actual driving and drifting that's shown is done pretty well. The comments that I have to make about the driving series, though, usually have to do with how it's filmed. While the filming of the actual cars themselves is not bad, most of the time the night shots are shown to be with a bluish, dark, very dark blue filter to be very obviously not night. It was filmed during the day and they put a filter over it, so that's low quality. I understand them not wanting to risk filming at night, but when it's that obvious, it's not good. There's also many times where it's obvious that the camera is simply sped up to make the cars look like they're going faster down the mountain. Mostly because there's a lot of corners where the car would usually drift at a certain speed, yet instead it's gripping through a corner. For those of you who don't know, it's basically, instead of sliding out around a corner, at that speed, if it was actually doing that, it would actually be sliding out and drifting, or at the very least power sliding. However, the video is clearly gripping through the entire corner, holding very tight to the road, meaning that they filmed it slowly, the car's driving very slowly, and simply sped up the footage. Because there's no way a car could be moving that quick and actually grip through the corner. It just couldn't happen. So, there are things like that in it that are not good. Also, whenever the three main characters are shown to be in the car, you never ever see outside of the car. You see this basically a box, which is like a darkened box with a car seat and a steering wheel. It's very, very obvious that they never put them actually in, so other than one scene where you see them climb into the car together and she starts the car. At which point then she accidentally kills the engine and they just like, oh, you did it wrong, ha ha ha. But other than that scene, every time they're driving, she's shown to clearly not be actually driving. It's they don't do a good job of disguising that. Some movies are better at making it look like the actors are actually in the car. Here, not so much. So, is it a good movie? Not really, no. Like I said, but I can't bring myself to dislike it because I understand at least the sentiment behind that the characters have. The writing is not terrible. Like I said, it's not well acted is the biggest problem. And again, that just goes to the actresses. The director maybe could have asked for more from the characters. There's a scene where Kaede is supposed to be crying because she's so happy, and it sounds like a baby screaming. I was like, what? I was like, that's supposed to be your I'm so happy I'm crying cry? It's like, okay. No. But, okay. All in all, I can't be mad at this movie. It is what it is. There's no, is it a great one? No. Is it, bad? No, not by any means, If you're interested in seeing a movie about racing that has girls in it, hey, like I said, there's almost no guys in this entire movie, and the movie feels very natural. This feels like they're actually looking at, it's like, oh, okay, they're racers, they just happen to be girls. The lady they run into, she just happens to be a woman. They don't make a big deal about it, so the character of Kaede's dad being there feels like a natural parent, being there. So, that's a good thing. So there are a lot of parts of this movie that do feel kind of natural, like I said, with the exception of that beach scene. Most of the stuff they at least go through kind of makes sense. Again, yes, Kaede, Reiko, and Chinatsu become friends through the car, but they establish when they first go to see the car that Kaede is a classmate of theirs, so it isn't as if they just suddenly become, best friends. Like, oh, they already knew each other through class. So, that they become closer through the car kind of makes sense. Okay, I don't think the sentiment shown is really bad at all. Again, as I say, is it a great movie? No. Is it a bad movie? No. No, it's definitely not a bad movie. It's harmless enough, with some decent racing scenes, with the exception of those special effects problems I said. Whoever did the actual special effects driving clearly knew what they were doing, and the camera angles are quite good too. So the only problem is the special effects used on them. So, I enjoyed it. So, coming up next time, I'll be reviewing a movie back from in the USA. Wait till next time to take a look at Redline. So, until next time, that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Speculative Dude, out.